Hello, everybody. My name is Nisha Sharif, and you're watching Decoding Careers, where I talk to professionals about their careers. We have Sufia Hussain, who works as a registered nurse at a children's medical center in Dallas. On average, the salary for a nurse ranges from about $46,000 to $102,000. There are three main ways to become a registered nurse. Number one is complete a 4-year bachelor's degree. Number two, earn a 2 years associate degree program in nursing. And number three, earn a 3-year diploma in nursing from a healthcare facility. In general, it'll probably take about 4 years in schooling. So, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great. So, I know in COVID and the pandemic, it's been super hard just for everybody they because of the rush in hospitals. So, how's it been like in your job?
Well, to be honest with you, at Children's Medical Center, our census is actually low. We don't have as many pediatric patients that get COVID, but the adult hospitals, there are a lot of patients in the ICUs and even on the floor. So you will see an increase in census for patients in those adult hospitals.
Okay, yeah. So I'm pretty sure because you work in a children's hospital, there isn't much, but there is still, right? And so it can be really hectic. So what are three words you think that best describe your profession?
Okay, I would say the three words that best describe the nursing profession is, first of all, caring. I feel you cannot be a healthcare professional or a provider in this field until you have that qualities of caring for others and all human beings. It doesn't matter who they are. And another thing is you have to have some kind of compassion or be passionate about what you do and be sincere in what you do. And if you don't have that, it would be difficult for you to take care of patients and provide the support they need in the worst times of their lives. And also, I would say empathy, because you do want to be able to sympathize with them and help them through what they're going through, because they're looking to you. You're their support. You're doing everything for them, and they're going to confide in you so you can help them with whatever they need.
Great. I know I feel like if I ever become sick or if something happens to me, I would really want a nurse who is super caring, compassionate, and shows a lot of empathy towards me because that would just make me feel so much better, right?
Yeah.
So I know I talked about this a little bit before, but what educational background is required or is best for your profession?
There we have nurses who do an associate degree in nursing, which is a 2-year degree. But major healthcare organizations actually require a bachelor's degree in nursing, which can be a 4-year degree. And sometimes some schools offer the bachelor's degree over an accelerated amount of time, such as 18 months. And so the best degree to have would be the bachelor's degree in nursing.
Okay, so speaking of education, are there any special certifications or trainings required for this job?
Yeah, so after someone obtains their bachelor's degree in nursing, then they're supposed to take the NCLEX, which is how they would get registered to become a nurse. And every state requires this kind of license for a nurse to practice. And then once you start nursing, and let's say you really like a certain specialty, such as working in the ICU or working in the intensive care unit or a surgical ICU or trauma or the ED. So what happens is then after a year of getting experience and spending some hours in that specialty, you can actually be certified to be an ED nurse or to be a trauma nurse or to be an ICU nurse or to be a cancer nurse. So specialty certifications come after.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, right? So going back to the first question when you were talking about like your job and like the three words that best describe. So can you describe to me a typical day in your job?
Yeah. So as a registered nurse, working on a pediatric cancer floor, one of the first things, so we have 12-hour shifts. So you would start at 7 a.m. and end at 7:30 p.m. So the first things me personally, I come in early at 6:30. I get my assignment and see what patients I have, and then I would go into the medical chart, and I'm going to read up on all my patients just so I have an idea of what they're in the hospital for. And then around 7 o'clock is when we start to give report to each other. So let's say I'm working on day shift, and the night shift nurse is going off her shift. She's going to give me report on my patients, and that's what's going to let me know what's going on with my patients. What do I need to do for them? What meds are they getting? What is the plan of care? And and how are they doing? Are they progressing well or not, and what do they need? So after we give report, then I would go check in with my patients, say hi, introduce myself, and give them anything they need at that time. And then I would go and start to gather their medications for the morning, because almost everybody has 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock meds, and I would gather their medications, and then I would choose the first patient. So sometimes we can have three patients, sometimes we can have four, and you would go to the most sickest patient first, because anything can happen with that patient, and you want to make sure you lay your eyes on them so nothing goes wrong while you're collecting medication. So then you start to pass out your medications, and then the doctors will come and do their rounds. So you look at the patients as a team, try to figure out what to do, listen to patient family concerns, and address those throughout the shift. And then comes around 12, you have another set of medications to give. And then around 6, you have another set of medications to give. But you also do some tasks. You make sure they are bathed, they're fed, and if you have to do any kinds of dressing change, any kind of um, lines and tubes, working with their lines and tubes, changing their dressings, anything. So usually your day is filled with passing meds and all these tasks that need to be done for the patient in order for them to stay safe and get better. And also something about nursing during the day shift is you're working with a lot of teams, not just the medical team, but you're also working with the social worker, you're working with the dietitian, you're working with physical therapy, occupational therapy. So as a nurse, you kind of like help build these relationships with all these teams so you can better take care of the patient. And you're the one who's advocating for these patients all the time.
That's great. I was like paying attention. I saw that you talked about a lot of really important skills, but what do you think are the three most important skills that are needed for your job?
Okay, so I feel that the three most important skills are, first of all, you have to be really flexible. You have to understand that if a patient or family is going through something very disappointing or heart wrenching, you have to be there to support them. They might take their anger out on you, but you shouldn't get offended. It's not about you, it's about them, it's about what they're going through. So you kind of have to have that resiliency and make yourself strong and be ready for anything that comes your way. And so being flexible, having resiliency, being strong, and also, and a lot of the nursing profession also requires you to be very efficient and detail oriented, because anything can happen during your shift or with the patient or with all three patients or four patients, and you always have to be ready for an emergency. So knowing what's going on at all times, kind of being nosy at all times, because you always have to be ready for anything that can happen to your patients, because everybody's going to come to you asking you, okay, what do I need to do? What does this patient need? Because you're the one who's there with the patient at the bedside for the full 12-hour shift.
Yeah. So you've talked about like family and stuff, and so I know that like a lot of people are concerned, but sometimes that can be bad, right? So what are some challenges that come with your profession?
Just like I said, I feel a lot of people need the skills to deal with frustrated patients, and now recently, many healthcare organizations are implementing classes to learn how to address patient concerns and to also de-escalate situations because there are times where patients are very frustrated and no one has answers for them. So you kind of have to keep going up your chain of command and getting leadership involved to help address those issues. But I would say that would be uh, one of the biggest challenges. Another challenge in healthcare is nursing shortage, which a lot of leaders and healthcare organizations are trying to address because there are times where you don't have enough nurses to take care of all these sick patients.
Yeah, so you were talking about nursing shortages, and I feel like if there is a shortage, you do need to pick up for the nurses that aren't there. So how do you balance your family life with your work life?
I actually, my way of relieving stress is uh, sleeping well. That's my self care and taking care of myself. But work life balance. Well, I'm in school too, seeking a further degree. So right now I'm very busy with that, but I do try to relax and find time to spend time with my family, watch shows, and just try to have fun. And then when you're at work, you're focused on your patients and focused on work.
That's great. So I know, like, so you just basically you just find a balance, right? And so I love how you have like a different mindset from family and work, and you try to enjoy with your family, which makes me really happy because I love my family. I'm pretty sure everybody loves their family. So this is the last question I just have to ask you. And for everybody who was not paying attention, please make sure to pay attention because this is the most important question. And that is, what advice would you give to a high schooler who's trying to pursue this career?
My advice would be that you have to know what you're getting into, and I think a lot of people don't know how hard the healthcare profession can be. Not hard in a sense where you have to do all this studying, right? Because every degree requires all this studying. But I feel it's hard because you have to deal with patients and you have to work with all kinds of people, and you cannot take anything personally. You have to be dedicated, motivated. You want to have that passion to help people, and you also have to be ready to work hard. And the more harder you work, the challenges that you deal with, the stronger you're going to become. And that's my advice to high schoolers.
That's great advice. So everybody, I hope you're paying attention. This is Sufia Hussein, and she is a great nurse. So thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you for
believe
having me.